Heck Yeah Podcast.
That's pretty good. What episode is this? 18, I think.
18, that's weird.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
I feel like we've been doing this for so long now.
I know.
We're like pros.
18 episodes. I wonder how many TV shows haven't made it past 18 episodes.
A lot, most of them.
Most of them have.
The majority of TV
Some one-hit
shows
wonders.
don't make it past 18 episodes. Hey, Bill.
What's up, Tone Zone?
How you doing, bud?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Busy. Work is very busy. Last night I streamed 49-cent Steam games.
Damn. 49 cents?
Yeah.
Dude, how does that work in
I don't know.
an economy?
I just sorted by price and just like went through this list of like the lowest price Steam games and just bought like 5.
Oh my God.
Like randomly. Some of them were a lot better.
You spent a whole $250.
Yeah. Some of them were a lot better than I expected them to be honest. Strangely good.
Are they, I mean, for that little amount of money, they've got to be games that have just been out for a while and...
Surprisingly not.
Really?
Like I thought it would all be a bunch of like 2014 games, right?
Yeah.
But it was just a bunch of like indie games from last year. Probably have like fallen off no one's buying them now, so they're just like...
Yeah, I guess if you're like a team of one or two guys developing a game, like you'd rather get the game out there if you're kind of really new to it.
Well, and I think, you sold it for $5 for a while and you sold, 2,000 copies and made 10 grand. And at this point, you're just like, if I can sell 100 more copies for 50 cents, like that's $50 in my pocket. You know what I mean?
Which just sounds so, it's just like, why even bother? But I mean, there's got to be more of a motivation than just the $50.
I think getting a lot of these, like, actually, I will say, like, only one of the games I played was trash. And that was Lawnmower Simulator.
Shocker, that wasn't good.
Lawnmower Simulator 3 Horror Edition. I hate horror games.
Yeah. Was it jump scary or was it just
No,
stupid?
you just drive a lawnmower around and these very slow moving animals chase after you, and if they touch you, you take damage.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
It was a game.
I mean, I could see that concept working if you did it differently.
Although, hot suggestion. I played this game called Beep, and it's like a little space robot game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great, but for 49 cents, especially if you have like kids might really like it. It's kind of cute. You know what I mean? And it seems like a very fully fleshed out game. Like there's a lot to it. I would actually recommend it at 49 cents.
One of my justifications for being a gamer and playing video games has always been the like cost per hour of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to movies where you've got, I mean, now it's probably closer to $10 per hour.
Yeah.
But if you just say like 8 to 10 hours or $8 to $10 per hour of entertainment, if you take a game, even a full price $60 game like GTA or whatever, and you're, now multiplying that by hundreds of hours, it's just pennies.
Yeah, the value prop on video games is so high.
It's crazy. So for 49 cents, if you play that for 2 hours, like
it's funny
it's
when
a
you
huge
like
value.
hem and haw over spending $60 on a game, and then you like go to the movies with your friends and spend $90 just like eating dinner and like having popcorn and a soda and seeing a movie.
I know.
And you're just like, this movie sucked. Like, what? I just saw Aquaman. Like, it's funny how it goes, but
it's probably because I distinctly remember a handful of games that I bought at $50-$60 and was just so disappointed in.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like you don't even feel like you. It's different than a movie because I'm pretty selective with movies, but even if you see a bad movie, it's still, like, I don't know, I still find myself, it's an experience. Like, you go to the movies, it's a thing. Like, the movie was bad, but with a video game, I feel like I've wasted the entire $60.
Yeah, there's still something positive about being at the movies with your friends and
Yeah.
sharing a popcorn and
something to talk about.
Yeah, your buddy stepped in some gum and that's funny, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like,
it's not necessarily. It's not 100% about the movie. It's the experience. Whether you're going on a date or you're whatever. Like you can talk about like, hey, wasn't that really crappy? Like that scene didn't make any sense. Like that, what a garbage movie.
I mean, especially in LA, right, where like so many of the places you can go see movies are kind of interesting, right? Like you go to like the Galleria or something, and it's like that's a kind of a cool Saturday night. I'm not much of a mall, like go hang out at the mall dude, right? But it's like Glendale's pretty nice, like the mall area right there, right? So you can go out, you have a nice dinner, you walk around, the fountain's going, you get yourself one of those cupcakes they got there, the
Sprinkles.
Yeah, you go get yourself a Sprinkles red velvet, and a cup of coffee, and you can make a night of it. It's a good time, even if the movie was shit,
Yeah, and it would obviously make the night better if you went to a really great movie or you had a really good time, but it doesn't define the whole
evening.
The whole evening. But a bad video game, I mean, there is nothing worse than putting down $60 and just being like, "Oh, this sucks."
The worst part is if you're really into it, right? Like that's why I feel. As much as I talk shit about Fallout 76 and was like, this is going to be garbage, like, you people are stupid for buying it, I get that there's people that are really into Fallout, and so I understand how disappointing getting a game like that is. I mean, I thought Fallout 4 was garbage, so, I wasn't surprised that Fallout 76 was bad, but I could see, especially if you liked Fallout 4 for some straight, like, it just tickled your fancy.
I did. I liked it.
Yeah, you're dumb. It was so bad. But yeah, I haven't really had a very exciting week. It's been very rainy, so a lot of staying in at night, playing a lot of games, trying to play with friends. I'm really bad at Blackout, like the Call of Duty Battle Royale.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so bad at it.
It's a weird combination of all the Battle Royale games, and I mean, the brief time that I've spent with it, like I can see it catering to a certain type of person. Like it's definitely more Fortnite than it is PUBG.
Yeah.
There's not really, I mean there is, but there's less of a strategic element and more of a like what loadout kind of scenario, like what freebie stuff you're good at.
Yeah, especially with like the armor and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's I guess PUBG has that too, or if you got level 3 armor and
but where do you? But you only get the level 3 armor if you know where to drop and you know the area. Like you really have to leverage map familiarity and awareness.
And that's true too. I don't play a lot of Blackout. Whenever I jump in, I'm just like, oh, I'm so bad at this. Although I had like a 5 kill run the other day, which was pretty good. But so yeah, it's been rainy here in LA. Like. It's Thursday. It's still pouring. It started on Monday. Last night driving home was so treacherous. Like,
yeah, dude, this morning was really bad.
This morning was terrible.
I'm bouncing off the rev limiter. Like that'll wake you up in the morning when you're like hydroplaning and
My driving home last night, my TCS light was just like on the whole time. Just like like it's just I just can't get traction.
Yeah.
Especially because my car's so small. I mean, your car's small too. So,
yeah.
So you know the feeling, but you hit any water and your car is just floating. And the street in front of our building is like almost flooded now.
Yeah, well, when you don't get that much rain, it doesn't really have anywhere to go. It just pools up. Side of the roads are flooded.
Yeah, well, especially once it starts to saturate, right? You get a day of rain, it's okay. It can kind of find its way into the crevices. 2 days, you start to kind of see these puddles form. Day 3 and 4, it's just the water's just sitting. It's just like getting higher and higher as it rains.
I can hear, like from the future, I can hear the people listening to this just going like, ugh, these idiots.
You know what? Shut your mouth. Shut your fat mouths. Just because you live in shitty places, don't take it out on us, okay? Sometimes you're just not equipped for the weather that comes. It's not our fault we get rain 355 days a year. All right?
Well, it is kind of our fault for living here, knowing that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
like we know this happens. We know that when it rains, it just turns into apocalypse.
Fuck you too, Bill. All right.
Well, you were born and raised here. You never lived anywhere else.
Well, I'm from San Diego, but yeah, Southern California.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
How's
it's
your week?
different.
How's your week, William?
It's been fine. It's been fine.
When it's rainy like this, there's just not a lot of like, oh, we went out and did this. It's
Yeah.
just sort of like, yeah, I got home and put on some sweats.
Yeah.
You know?
Went to work, came home, went to sleep, went to work again. I'm hoping that the rain lets up this weekend. I've had my poor cross country flight canceled 3 times, so the plane should be working, and hopefully the weather is,
Yeah,
okay.
I hope so too, Bill.
Finally.
I hope so too. I'd like to go outside as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Just to go outside. We got a couple emails.
Love it.
Yeah.
If you want to email us, it's techyeahpodcast@gmail.com. We stand by currently our mantra of if you send it, we will read it.
Yeah. For better or worse.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Until we get too big and we just have too many emails and can't physically do it.
This one's from one of my favorite fans, Maria Forelli.
Awesome. Thanks, Mom.
And what she says is episode 17 was hysterical. Guy next to me on treadmill thought I was crying. I was laughing so much. Great job on useless products. Thank you so much, Maria. We really appreciate you listening and crying to our show.
There's probably going to be like a Bluetooth thing that will tell you when you're crying.
Yeah.
Next year at CES.
Next year at CES. You're not the first mom I've made cry.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that. And, if you want to cry too, go back one episode, check it out. It's our CES roundup. It's pretty good. I thought it was actually a really good episode. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we Tony and I both have a probably equal disdain for listicles, but they're so easy and they're so good.
Yeah, and someone today actually was like, yeah, that part about CES is like the Bed Bath and Body Works of Bed Bath and Beyond of technology products. I was just like, I said that. He's like, yeah, you said that. It was pretty funny. And
That is clever. You did say that.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I guess I did.
Huh.
One more email. This one, I don't know about this one. It opens with, hey, Bill. Oh, I thought it said Bill only. It says Bill only. It's like a merger.
Oh,
of us.
baloney.
Like if we were the
our TMZ nickname.
Benefer.
Yeah.
Of
baloney. That's pretty good.
Yeah, this is from Positive Mike. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about baloney, but I'll roll with it.
I like it.
You like it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was recently driving in heavy rain on the freeway. I guess he's from L.A.
Must be.
Listening to music. The low visibility and multitude of cars was giving me stress. I know that anxiety. I switched the music to the Tech Yeah podcast and found myself more relaxed and enjoying the drive. Thank you for your podcast. We're saving lives out there.
That's awesome.
I think the real takeaway from this email is we're saving lives.
Tech Yeah podcast is saving lives and making moms cry.
Yeah. Your mom might cry, but you'll drop that rain driving anxiety and get home safe and sound. And for that, your mom won't cry. You know?
So awesome.
Moms will cry, and then moms don't cry because of the Tech Yeah podcast. That's all I got for emails this week. Once again, if you want to email us, have your email read on the show, email techyeahpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll read your stupid email.
Clearly,
we'll read your stupid email.
Oh, God, that's really funny.
Bill, I heard you caught some grief this week.
Yeah, so
over some of our comments.
Yeah, my friend Ryan had mentioned some of our comments regarding Ryzen builds, AMD builds, and
we trash them.
Yeah, not really. We didn't really.
I really give them the what for, if you know what I mean.
So the comment that we made, if you haven't listened to episode 17 yet, was that we're always surprised when someone says they either have a Ryzen build or is going to. It's always like, oh, good. Oh, that's so nice. Like, it's such a nice.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. The world is full of poor people.
Not everyone could be so fortunate, Tony.
Yeah, I guess.
And I clarified to Ryan that, you know, there's nothing wrong with Ryzen. In fact, that's why we're pleasantly surprised when someone decides to do a Ryzen build.
Yeah, and I was kidding about the poor people thing. All right, if you're offended,
everybody relax.
If you're offended, then Yeah, I meant it. You write me an email to tell me how offended you are because I love getting emails. But yeah, I'm surprised too. Like, just because especially like working in this industry, like it's so kind of, and I know like on Reddit and stuff, I see like, oh, this Ryzen build so good, but that's my Redditor voice.
Pretty good.
Thank you. But working in this industry, we definitely see like Intel just dominating the promotional side, the sales side. Like, it's crazy because I honestly expected Ryzen to do better, but you just don't see that much. And especially in pre-built machines, you almost never see Ryzen machines.
Right, yeah. And I've noticed that too. Yeah, the pre-builts. Like if I see a pre-built that has like a really good price, I look at it and sure enough, it's a Ryzen build. I'm like, oh man, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
And for those of you not super dialed into the PC component world, there's kind of a pretty clear-cut distinction between the two. Intel is the king of the processors.
How dare you?
They've unlocked something that gives their CPUs higher clock speeds.
I would say Intel's like the Apple. If you're like not used to tech or not used to PC components, Intel kind of has that Apple appeal of like its premium. It feels more premium.
Yeah.
Than like what I mean, but I guess that doesn't work because Android's like so popular.
Yeah.
But Android definitely feels more tinkery. You know what I mean? Like it's for it's for people that want like a lower cost kind of higher yield, but Intel's for people,
and maybe a better value.
And maybe a better value. And Intel seems like for people that want to spend a premium and receive a premium.
Right.
And
then that premium comes in that higher single core performance, the higher clock speed. You can overclock an Intel chip more stably and higher than a Ryzen chip.
You're gonna get so roasted for saying that.
It's true though.
I know, but some AMD kids are like, "No, bro, I got my."
And you can, and some. I mean, there's differences in chips, but in general, and in the reason for their, at least my interpretation of it, the reason for their standing in the industry is because of PC gamers' love affair with the benchmark.
Yeah.
And benchmarks are, there's graphical benchmarks, there's CPU workload benchmarks, and basically it's a stress test for specific components and different, some things will stress test graphical elements, some will stress test, encoding and workload calculations, and in those instances, a higher clock speed is always going to win because it's about how many jobs you can do over a given period of time.
And I will say that games as well have done a very poor job of taking advantage of multi-core and multi-thread support, right? Which to what Bill is saying, AMD kind of thrives on offering more cores and more threads at a lower cost, where Intel has a higher clock speed. Well, if games aren't taking advantage of these cores, then you kind of just are benefited by that single core higher clock speed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that is the difference. Is AMD is playing a core count game, and Intel is sticking with the clock speed game. So it really depends on what you're doing on the computer that might push you one way or the other. If you're encoding a lot of video or doing a lot of productivity stuff, having more cores is going to help you, versus if you're strictly a gamer and you're just trying to squeeze out as many frames per second as possible, knowing that most games do not use multi-core, it's not optimized for multi-core, having that higher clock speed and stability is arguably the better option.
Yeah, I agreed. And we both use Intel, right?
Yeah. I use I use an i5 because I, again, multi-core, I got 4 cores, 4 cores, 4 threads. Now I stream on the same system, so I would benefit from more cores theoretically, but the game I play is really not multi-threaded, multi-core optimized.
Well, and like how many cores do you need, right? It's not like streaming is going to require 6 more cores.
No.
You know what I mean? So if you have 4, it's like only one of those threads is on the game, so you still have the headroom there.
Yeah.
For encoding video.
Yeah.
You know.
And I've got my CPU on air overclocked, downclocked to 4.6. I had it at 4.7, and I just for arbitrarily moved it down when I moved to a warmer climate.
I set mine up at 4.5, just like initial boot.
Yeah.
4.5, and I've just never touched it. It's like, this is fine. Like,
it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And that was going to be my point, is it's fine. Like, if you get a Ryzen 5 or an i7 or a whatever, you're really not going to notice a difference.
Yeah, probably. In most things.
The majority of people won't notice. You'll have your Unigine Heaven benchmark or your IDA 64 benchmark, and you'll be like, oh, this number isn't as big as I saw on PC Gamer, or this isn't as big of a number as Jay's 2 cents showed.
Oh, Jay 2 cents.
But who cares? Because the games you're playing, like, as long as you're playing them and you're happy playing them and you don't have the frame rate counter in the corner, it's fine.
Yeah, I think the only time you really run into issues is when you're playing poorly optimized games.
Yeah.
Right? Like PUBG for a long time was hard to run on anything but an i7 or a newer i5 clocked. You needed at least that 4 gigahertz mark to run PUBG at any kind of like discernible frame rate, right? Otherwise it was just like chugging and crazy. That's not really the case anymore. You know, they've worked a lot on it. It's a lot more optimized. But yeah, if you're going to be playing early access games that are, hot and trying new things, and especially with BR being so big and it's populating this whole map and it's running a jillion physics calculations for a million bullets flying everywhere.
Right, yeah.
You start to kind of run into those problems, but that's kind of a unique issue that comes up. And it's also, I don't think most people are on that cycle. You know what I mean? I don't think most people are like kind of following Twitter and video game podcasts and seeing what's coming out or knowing what developers are launching and then buying that in early access and playing. Not a lot of people are playing Tarkov right now. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's the vocal minority that are kind of pushing, you've got a guy with a YouTube channel. He's a vocal minority. He wants the highest clock speed and the highest whatever. And, everyone kind of follows behind those recommendations.
Yeah, the majority of people are playing Fortnite and Overwatch, and you know what I mean?
Don't need it. Yeah, get a Ryzen 3 and a 1050 Ti and play it at medium settings and have fun.
And I mean, I'll be honest, like when I was building my system, I lucked out and got a good deal on my processor. Intel has certain programs, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. There's always these kind of like sign up and do all these, these educational programs for these companies, and they'll give you like a coupon every once in a while. And I just happened to get a coupon when I was building for a discount on an i5 that put it in a range that it was like competitive against Ryzen builds. Yeah. But up until that point, I was going to build a Ryzen because I could get a CPU and motherboard combo that would have been good enough for a really good price. For $300, I could have been sitting pretty with a Ryzen. Yeah. As opposed to, if I bought my processor retail and my board retail, that's like $500, Yeah. And then memory and, now you're at a $900 machine, right? Like
here's a really, really good example. You have an Intel Core i5 9600K and then an AMD Ryzen 2600X. Those are two very comparable modern CPUs. You got a K and an X. Mm-hmm. The Intel, the i5 is 263. The AMD is 229. It's a big difference. It's a big difference, percentage wise.
Especially considering which I think is really the weakness of Intel, but it's just the way it's always been. It's only going to support a very small number of chipsets, right? So you're really like AMD supports a wide number of boards, so you've got a lot of choices as far as what you spend on a board. Right. Where with Intel, you're really stuck with one or two boards for each manufacturer that support that specific chipset. Especially if you're going with a K series because it's going to need the Z overclockable board. I know we're kind of getting into the
pretty nerdy
here, right? It's pretty nerdy, Maria. I'm sorry, but it's Intel just kind of gives you this very short life for your motherboard, for your chipset, and I really do think that that's a very negative thing. But I think, when it comes down to it, the clock speeds just kind of outweigh all these negatives. It's very rare.
Yeah, and it's pretty noticeable because the Intel has 6 core, 6 threads. The Ryzen has 6 core, 12 threads.
So many threads.
Same TDP. The base clocks, the Intel is 3.7 and the Ryzen is 3.6. So no real different there. But the boost clocks, and these are just like the factory boost clocks, go up to 4.6 on the Intel, and it maxes out at 4.2 on the Ryzen.
And that's just like
that's the difference.
That's not even overclocked. Like if you don't know about like boost clock, it's basically what the processor will run at under load, right? It'll crank up to that boost speed if you have a board that supports it. Whenever it's like if you're playing games or whatever, it'll just jump up and do the boost speed.
Yeah.
So, it's quite a difference, especially if you're not overclocking between what those processors will reach.
And the average consumer really isn't overclocking too much.
Yeah, they're not.
They're freaked out by it. They get the PC, they say, "Oh, this does run fine. I don't need to do this."
Yeah, BIOS is kind of scary. It looks very scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be. But I think it goes back to like you're not going to notice it. Most people, I think, like, oh yeah, I'm going to totally overclock, and then they boot the system up, they download some games, and they go, oh, okay, I'll they get excited. You want to download your games and whatever.
And you just want to start doing.
You just want to start playing it. I'll overclock it later, and then they realize that the game runs fine, and they never do.
Yeah, and unless you're like, it's true. Unless you're like 3D Mark guy, that's like just got to benchmark.
Keep dialing it and keep dialing it.
You're not worried about it until there's an issue, right? Until there's something that's like, oh, this runs a little bad.
And again, it goes back to what are you using the PC for? If you're encoding porn usually, but if you're encoding, it could be porn. You could be encoding your porn. Your home shot porn.
Homemade stuff?
That's
the good stuff.
That's the good stuff. And you were like, okay, well, it took me an hour to render this video. I have like 4 more videos I want to render today. If I get a bigger this, if I have a higher clock this, whatever, it's going to take me 40 minutes. That's where you can actually notice.
Yeah, when you're getting into processes that take, magnitudes of minutes to accomplish, that's when speeds matter.
Correct.
Right? That's when you're like, oh, like literally if I overclock this, if I'm encoding videos all day, I can do 5 more videos in a day.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's productivity. That's when you really feel it.
Right. And that is kind of where the extra threads do come in handy. When you're doing those multi-threaded applications. That's
what's so funny about AMD. It's the same with their video cards too. It's like these things are so much better suited for productivity tasks.
Yeah.
But they're still marketed as gaming
I know.
hardware, and it's like,
well, because it's way sexier. Like, you don't want to sell this chip going like, hey, if you watch your little render bar go quicker. Like,
well, it's funny because I work on the business side, right? Like, I don't know if you guys know, but I work in the business. Me and Bill work at a large e-commerce company, right? And I work in the business to business side. We've said it before, so if you don't know, you don't know. But we shy away from marketing gaming products. So we don't market any of this. I would love to market AMD products, but they don't provide any non-gaming collateral, right? And the worst is, a lot of times these manufacturers, when they make the products, will call them gaming, right? An MSI Radeon RX 590 gaming, right? And it's like, I can't list that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't put that anywhere. But the reality is, this is actually much better for productivity than the Nvidia alternative, right? This processor is actually much better for productivity. It's hard to sell a freaking Threadripper to an enterprise, right?
Sounds so ridiculous.
But it's actually a solid choice for workstations.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's got this silly, sexy name tied to it, right? And it's I get it. I see why they do it, but once again, Intel dominates the business market as well, and it's because they are very willing to invest into productivity marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like as much as they'll say, like, for one, they don't name their processors silly things, right? The i9 is not called like the i9
Right.
i9 game shredder 9000. You know what I mean? It's they'll put a K at the end, right? And that's kind of signifies.
It's very alphanumeric. It's very understated.
It's very understated, right? Like, so if you want to order that from your boss because you're like, this thing is fast and I'll be able to render more. He looks at it and he's like, okay, like that's fine. It's in a cool purple and black box, but there's nothing like, it's not giving you free, it's nothing silly, right?
Yeah.
If you order the Threadripper and it comes in a glass box, it looks like you know what I mean? It's so silly. And I feel like, I don't know. I'm not the marketing department. You know what I mean? AMD's actually, well, up until recently, done pretty well for themselves this past year.
Yeah, I think so too.
So it's, maybe they're right and I'm wrong, but it definitely makes it hard to market it on this side of the river,
Yeah, it's just those clock speeds they are important. And it is very hard to do. And there is like a level of, Intel has some secret sauce that you're paying for.
Well, especially someone that's like built PCs for a long time, like I built my first PC in 2000, right?
Yeah, are those clock speeds like in the twos?
No, they're like my first processor was an AMD Duron 1.1 gigahertz processor.
1.1.
Yeah. And so that's the first one I purchased, right?
Yeah.
Like as a build machine. We had like 486s and stuff in my home, but those building, those were more like you bought like a compact Presario or an IBM, you know what I mean? Like you bought the box.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like back then processors were named by their clock speeds, right? You know what I mean? It was very common to buy like well, I guess Intel back then even then kind of obscured it, but AMD's were kind of whatever their clock speed was what an AMD 2600 or you know what I mean? Like you bought the clock speed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a large part of why clock speed's such an important like keystone for judging the quality of a processor, right? Like we've kind of been trained to see clock speed as like the most important factor. And by not winning that clock speed battle, you've kind of lost the war,
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like the 0 to 60 time for a car.
Yeah, does it matter? No.
It doesn't really matter, but it is better. And if the car will go 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, that is more marketable than the car that goes 4 seconds, even though you're not going to notice a difference.
Or when someone asks you what the top speed of a car is.
Yeah, like who cares?
To go to 180, it's like,
yeah,
what are you?
Cool.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you're paying for the fact that it can do that, not the fact that you need.
Well, you're not
that.
going to Nuremberg, right? Like you don't need a long 6 gears so you can get this thing to 180. The only difference is the gearing. You know what I mean? You can get a low horsepower car to get pretty high speeds if you gear it to do so. I mean, eventually you're going to hit the wall where the wind's just too much. But my Nissan Sentra back in the day, topping out fifth was like 135 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Like,
and how many times did you do that?
Yeah, once. And it was terrifying and stupid, right? And I don't suggest anybody do that.
Yeah.
But you're bouncing off rev limiter at that point. Like you're losing power. Completely doing that. And it's like, who cares? Like it's such a like a stupid number to go after, But like, it's the expectation's been created, right? Car and driver lists it for every car.
Yep.
So now everybody cares.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And the same thing. Yeah. The vocal minority is spouting, how quick it can go to 60 or the top speed. And the same with the processors. It's crazy how similar it really is.
Yeah, it is. And just like an AMD, like a Mini Cooper S is one of the funnest cars to drive.
Yeah.
Right? A Miata with no horsepower is a ball to drive around. So you look ridiculous, but it is so fun to drive around, and it's much more fun than driving a Mustang GT.
Yeah, and cheaper and easier to maintain and all kinds of stuff.
That Mustang GT will win in all of those car and driver numbers, right? Like because it's got the big V8 and does the 0 to 60 faster and has a higher top speed. But I'd much rather have a Miata or a Cooper S than a Mustang.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's my own, that's a personal choice, right? I'm not saying it's better. We're going to hold another slew of
Sure.
emails. But it's just, what I'm saying is that the numbers aren't indicative of how much you're going to enjoy owning that product.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you save $40 on your processor and put that $40 towards another part of your build, you'd end up with a better overall build than you would if you spent it on the Intel chip.
Better GPU. Speaking of, these 2060s look hot, bro.
They do look pretty awesome, man.
Right? I mean, for the price, they were like $349 for the reference, like Nvidia 2060, and these things look fast. They look good. They got that like this new OBS driver that is better for single PC streaming. So my streaming PC died, so now I'm back to single PC streaming. I'm on a 1080, and it's fine. It runs, but if you can optimize that better, especially even like on a 2060, it's like part of me is like maybe I should get a 2060.
I'm thinking about it.
And I have a processor that is faster than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It actually looks similar to in speed, the 2060 and the 1080.
Mm-hmm.
But, if it runs OBS that much better, it's like,
pretty nice.
Like for $300, like they're going to come down to $300. Like if they're $350 for the reference, there's going to be like a Zotac or an EVGA model that's like,
absolutely.
And the amp edition, so the Zotac amp I saw was like $379, and that thing looked like it hums with the faster memory. It's the first 20 series card I'm excited about, by far.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it's because it's like the value matches with what you're able to use.
Yeah, it's actually in line with what it should cost.
Right.
As opposed to the 2070 and 2080 are retarded. They're ridiculous.
It's stupid. Yeah, it's unnecessary for tech because you're paying for the technology that you can't use yet.
Yeah.
So there's really no benefit to being early adopter on that. Which actually segues nicely to this article that I found. And for the less tech savvy, so a CPU does calculations. Like it's basically running physics calculations in a game setting. I mean, obviously there's other things that it can do, but in terms of what a game's doing, like Tony said, the CPU is saying where the bullet is going to land. And it's kind of drawing, based on the game calculations, how far it goes, how it drops, where it hits, what velocity it has. Okay, this person is moving over this hill and it is in this space. So it's all like general locations and general physics properties.
I mean, if you really want to get nerdy about it, a CPU is it's like the quartz in a watch, right? It's literally like a clock. And it's basically putting through so we all know computers are ones and zeros, right? Yeses and nos. It's all yeses and nos. So the CPU is actually dictating how many yeses or nos it can do in a given cycle, right? And it's gajillions. That's what the gigahertz is how many it can do. So as that goes through, yes, that is this person here? Is this? Are they doing this? It's
right.
Answering all these questions super quickly. That's what the CPU does. Is it manages all of these yes or no questions, answers them, validates them, and tells your computer, this is where everybody's at. This is what's going on. This is who's shooting this. This is, you know what I mean? Like any factual question that's happening that can be answered with a yes or no, that CPU is answering it.
Yeah.
And telling the computer what's going on.
I mean, it's like the Matrix. You don't see anything but ones and zeros.
Yeah.
All it's putting out is ones and zeros that's being interpreted, whatever. But a GPU is actually drawing talk about a gajillion triangles.
Yeah.
So it's skinning all of the information that the CPU is telling the computer.
Yeah, that's everything from your desktop to your Spotify playlists to games to videos. The GPU is literally drawing it all. It's like it's got a colored pencils and it is putting every pixel in. Is this red, green, or blue? Right? It's drawing them all the way on the screen.
But it's all done via math. So it is drawing, but it is doing it mathematically, which is why everything is in a triangle. and it's kind of referred to as rasterization. It's just another term for straight lines, essentially.
For dots.
Yeah. And it's connecting the dots and filling them in. So if you zoom in on a round ball in a video game, it's actually just made up of a bunch of tiny little triangles, and it's
kind of squarish, kind of triangles.
Yeah, polygons.
It's blocks. It's little blocks.
Yeah. So the new generation of the Nvidia graphics cards kind of changed that, where it's rendering things live in a different way than in straight line little polygon triangles.
It's kind of modeling it's trying to model the actual light physics, right? So as opposed to in instructions that's saying that the lights are like this, put this color, X color here, Y color here.
Yeah, there's a shadow here. Like it's like in video games now, that is literally the physics is saying, because there's a light source over here, we need to draw a shadow over here.
Yeah, and the shadow should be X. You're instructing it like X color, Y color.
Yeah.
So where this new RTX, this new Nvidia thing is basically saying there's a light here, model out what the shadow, what you tell me what the shadow
Figure it
should
out.
be,
Yeah.
right? Where they should fall,
Yeah.
how they're reflecting, right? And all of that is just sort of being magically manifested by this video card.
Yeah, which is very, very hard to do live, and that's where these prices are crazy on these GPUs, because it is very, very difficult technology to implement, but it's also at this point even harder to do on the developer side. So because it's doing basically magic, it's AI-ish kind of magical stuff.
No, it's Hogwarts shit.
It's definitely Hogwarts. The developers are not there yet. The hardware's here, the development is not there yet. So this is like a long lead up to this story, which is that the 2060, which has that ray tracing technology, is at a price point where it makes more sense for 1080 guys right now, or 1070, to move into the
Anybody
RTX.
looking for a current good upgrade.
It makes more sense than spending $1,000 on a GPU that you're not going to get the full benefit from. So this is actually a rumor, but Nvidia is now rumored, this is from an article on PC Gamer, rumored to be readying a GeForce GTX 1660 Ti graphics card. So it's the current, the 20 series architecture, which they've called the Turing architecture, but just without the RTX magic stuff.
No secret sauce in it.
No secret sauce. It's just using the updated architecture, which is, similar to how a CPU is. Like, it's doing jobs per amount of time, and it's just been optimized.
And I think the easy way to say it is the way things have been until now.
Yeah.
The way it is right now.
Yeah, rasterization.
Yeah.
Because we're suspecting that it's going to take at least 2 to 3 years for non-rasterized game graphics to become more common.
I think it's going to be far longer than that. But
yeah. And it could be even far longer than that. So there's a bunch of like numbers with
how much is it going to cost?
CUDA cores. Well, it's rumored. This is coming from an industry source. So three industry sources squawk to Video Cards with a Z about the upcoming card, at least one of which is purportedly a board partner. It might end up being a different model name, but the takeaway is that it will be the first Turing-based card under the GTX brand. So as the story goes, it will feature a TU 116 GPU with 1,500 CUDA cores and 6 gigabytes of GDR6 memory on a 192-bit bus. For reference, the 2060 features 1,900 CUDA cores along with the same memory configuration. So it has 400-ish fewer CUDA cores without the RTX.
CUDA cores sound important though.
Those do kind of sound important.
Mm-hmm.
Percentage-wise, it doesn't seem like it's that crazy of a jump. So it's still a rumor right now. But it seems inevitable that Nvidia will eventually do this.
It makes sense. Because, I mean, with the lackluster kind of release of RTX, it makes sense that they would release a card that is non-RTX, save a couple bucks, sell a little cheaper, kind of get some of that, share back. I think they've had a really bad kind of showing with this launch.
Yeah.
They could use some good graces and to move some units, that's for sure.
I mean, if this was a 200 to 250 range, probably 250.
250 probably.
Like if you're building a PC right now for the first time,
it'd be a beast at 250. A beast.
It would be a beast at 250.
A beast at 250. Let's put it this way. I have a 1080 with the same i5 as you, 7600K. 7600, right?
Yeah.
I play everything at 144 hertz 2K.
Yeah.
Everything.
Wow.
Which is beastly, right?
Yeah.
Now I will say, like, Black Ops, fine when you're playing regular Black Ops, rough when you're playing Blackout because it's so much more stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still up there. It's still 100 frames, right? You know what I mean? It's not bad, but this is a comparable. Like, my card is a card that released at $700. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and this would probably perform comparably. Maybe maybe a tiny bit less, but we're talking about a comparable card.
It's at least 1070 Ti plus.
Yeah. So if you're running, especially if you're a 1080 gamer at, if you're a 60 hertz 1080 gamer, you're going to like explode your monitor. You're going to have so many GPU frames trying to flood into this thing. But if you know what I mean? Like, you'll easily push 1080, 144 hertz. You will probably have not an easy time, but a manageable time doing 2K 144 hertz. And no one's doing 4K right now, so who cares, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what card you got.
Yeah.
You're not playing 4K 144 hertz. So don't think about it. Don't worry about
Don't
that.
worry about
don't
it,
worry
yeah.
about that tier, because that's the JC 2 cents, 2080 Ti's, and you know what I mean? Like,
and 4K is not 4 times higher resolution than 1080.
No.
It's like 10 times.
It's like a gajillion.
It's compounded like crazy.
I heard it's infinite. I heard it's infinitely higher.
That seems not possible.
No, that's what I heard. I read it. It's a rumor, but that's what I read. It's on the Twitter.
Someone tweeted that.
The Twitter rumor mill, That's what's hot right now. Yeah, so I think this is exciting. I think we're finally like seeing this generation show some video cards that are real upgrades for consumers. I think up until this point we really saw I think what was so disappointing is Nvidia basically said spend more, get less. Right? Like, that was the message of the 20 series, right?
Yeah.
Spend more on your card, get less performance per dollar.
Right.
Compared to last generation, right? And at least with this, we're seeing a place where they're like, no, like, upgrade with about the same as what you paid last time for your 1060, get a much better card. And I think that's the messaging that's been missing. I think that's what Apple's missing right now too. Speaking of, that's a company that's also had a poor showing, as we talked about a couple weeks ago. I suggest you go back and listen to our "How Much Money Did Apple Lose" episode. But
spoiler alert, it was a lot.
Spoiler alert, it was a lot. But that's the message there is similar. Their ask was spend more, get less, or spend
more and get the same.
Spend more and get the same. Like, you're upgrading. There was no upgrade in that path. It was just give us more money. And I think the good thing is they gave a clear indication to the world that consumers aren't really interested in that.
Yeah. They're getting smarter.
They're getting smarter.
They're not willing to just get the next one that you got.
Yeah, and across the board, I think we've seen that fail. I think it's like this year was the just give us more money year. Everyone seemed to be trying it, and it just hasn't worked. It's across the board, it's failed. These companies have lost a lot of money, and consumers have shown, like, you have to provide a value, like, otherwise you're just not going to succeed. You're not going to grow that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very good thing. You know what I mean? I think that's an exciting place, and I think it spawns competition in a way that I really enjoy.
Yeah, but sincere condolences to all of you that invested heavily in Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure. And if you had a bunch of Apple stock, all right, you should have cashed out after the split. Okay, there was a time where you were really sitting on a lot of money there.
Quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, you're still sitting on a good amount of money, but it sure doesn't feel as good as it felt about last July. Okay.
No. Suckers.
Or what was it? Like August, I think, was really your peak.
Oh my god.
But yeah, that's rough. Okay, and that puts us in a good spot. Bill, what else you got going on?
That's it.
Nothing.
No, just yeah.
Yeah, me too. I'm kind of right there. I'm kind of right there with you.
Yeah.
What do you got going on this weekend?
Hopefully flying. Hopefully I got my solo cross country. This is the first time I will have taken an airplane by myself to someplace and come back with it.
All alone.
All by myself.
They're going to let you have an airplane?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be flying over LAX by myself.
I wouldn't let you borrow my Honda Fit. They're going to let you have an airplane.
Over LAX. I am flying over LAX airport. There's going to be Airbus A380s and 747s and Qantas and all those guys below me.
Although I was listening to Rogan, and he was talking about flying with Bill Burr in his helicopter.
Yep.
And he was like saying like it's crazy because you can fly literally like into downtown LA.
Yeah.
And just buzz around the buildings.
Yeah.
In a helicopter.
With a helicopter, you can. Yeah. I mean, you technically can in an airplane too, but it's not as, you're
not just like hovering around rooftops.
Yeah.
You're
limited to your maneuverability. But one thing that Bill Burr did say that I 100% agree with is when you're up not that high.
Yeah.
Like it's really, airlines will cruise at, 30, even like 29 to 40,000 feet, as to say. I mean, some go a little bit higher, but, just say 35,000 feet. That's pretty high. If you look out on a clear day, I mean, you can still make out what's going on. You're not like, oh my God, we're like, how are we ever going to get down? We're up here so high.
Yeah, we're in space.
Yeah. But when you're cruising over LA at 4,500 feet, which sounds really low, right? In comparison, you can see from San Diego to Palm Springs to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Given visibility, like haze and stuff. But that's how high up that is. If you see that airplane from the ground, it doesn't look like it's
very high at all.
Yeah. You're kind of like,
when you're used to seeing them so high.
Yeah. Either so high or coming into land, and you're very conscious that you're close to an airport. But it is really amazing how small the area looks, quickly.
Yeah, it's it's crazy. Like I think even of like you go camping, right? There's a camping site I used to like to go to in Idlewild, right? And it's just outside of town. It's up the mountain, and it's probably this is just a guess because Yosemite's like 12,000 feet. So I would say this is probably like 8,000 or 9,000 feet. You're way below that.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, from the campsite, you could see over like the Coachella Valley, like Indio.
Yeah,
you could see forever.
Yeah,
like at nighttime when it's clear, you can see the casinos out there. Like, like it's amazing.
Yeah,
how far you can see. And so I can only imagine, especially in a small airplane, you get like a super clear day. You get up high and you're like, that's the Coronado Bridge. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
like,
it's unbelievable. And here we're obviously on the coast, so going west you really can't see much. There's not anything to like see out in the distance. But like when I flew in Washington in the Seattle area, you go up and you like, okay, there's Rainier, there's St. Helens. You can see all these mountains, some of which are in Canada. Like you can see Canada from the Seattle at just crazy. A couple thousand feet. And then you can see the Pacific Ocean. You can see, Portland and, Oregon. So you're like Oregon to Canada just at a couple hundred feet. Like it takes you a few minutes to get up that high.
So what you're saying is in Batman v Superman, when they're at the top of the tower, you can see from Gotham to whatever the Metropolis, that's real.
That whole movie was real. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to confirm.
It was one of my favorite documentaries of the last few years.
Yeah. I thought that when I watched the movie, I thought the visibility, like that can't be real. But now that we're talking,
it's totally legit.
Definitely legit.
Yeah.
Damn. They got me again. They had me with
Warner
Aquaman.
Brothers, I love you.
They got me again. Speaking of the Mortal Kombat events today, I don't know if you really follow Mortal Kombat.
I saw that a little bit, yeah.
It's blowing up on Twitter right now.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey's going to be one of the voices.
Dude.
She's going to be Sonya Blade. You know, Mortal Kombat Sonya Blade?
Yeah.
The hot blonde?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be Ronda Rousey.
Interesting.
It looks hype. I mean, the one thing I'll say, like, you know, I guess I'm the video game guy here, but I get excited with Mortal Kombat because their first impulse is always what's fun. You know what I mean? Other games, Street Fighters, like, we got to be balanced,
tight,
competitive.
And needs the gate control.
Yeah, you gotta have. What about like if you want to like counter block and cross counters and mix ups, and then Mortal Kombat's like, what if you want to like tear someone's head off?
How much
How are we gonna do
blood
that? Yeah.
can we splatter?
Yeah. Yeah. How much of her could we really animate? Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I played Dead or Alive, that game, the new one, the beta for it was last weekend. I did not like it. Mm-hmm. It was not very good. They didn't have any of the hoochie costumes yet.
Damn it.
Yeah, it was a real bad time.
Bummer.
Yeah, it was a bummer. I don't have anything planned this weekend. So hopefully go outside.
Just gaming.
Yeah, game. Get outside of the house for a day.
It should be nice.
Yeah.
It should be nice starting tomorrow, so you should be able to get some outdoors time.
What I'm excited for is next week. When it's rained this much, the sun gets a few days in, and like the whole world turns green.
It's going to look awesome.
It's so nice because, Southern California is usually so brown.
Yeah.
So it's so nice to have like a week of green before the sun dries it all out.
Kills everything.
Yeah. All right.
Tony, where can the fine folks find you?
On the internet. What about you?
Internet as well. I am on the internet.
Good stuff.
I like that a lot better.
Yeah, honestly, just go to TechCat Podcast at Twitter or email us at Gmail. I will add our links there. That way you can just go there and find us.
Yeah, let's not whore ourselves out.
Oh, because this is big talk coming from you.
Well, I mean, it's true though. Like,
I'm just saying you're the biggest whore I know.
100%. I will admit that fully. But like, if we say, hey, you can find me at Bill at whatever, no one's doing that, right?
No one's doing that.
So why say it? It's just wasting time.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. We'll stop. That's why I did. I stopped too. And Bill, it was very nice meeting your lovely wife this week.
Yes, it was nice to have her see The Office and meet you in person. She was like right away. She's like, oh, Tony.
Yeah, that was the first time she's been in the same space as the entire Tech Yeah podcast crew.
That's true.
Must have been very exciting for her.
She has to be. Yeah, the first meet and greet.
Yeah, she should. If she wanted a picture, she should have asked. Is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. We love you guys, and we're out.
Love you. Tech Yeah.